Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome in 2020 and I hope you all had a lovely Christmas. I'm starting off this video a bit awkwardly because the audio got screwed up and so I needed to retake this, but I had no time to redo the set. So, in this video I want to talk a little bit about my New Year's resolutions, but it's also gonna be a bit of an essay, be it inspired by personal experience. Also, that gives me the opportunity to thank Octafox Simon for sending me the footage of the drawing being made in the background. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But go check out her art on Instagram regardless. Link is down in the description. And I want to start a little bit about my story and how I got into steampunk to begin with. So, I got started by the end of 2012 with the blog Tupperware Steampunk. Before that I had done reenactment. But in that period I also started writing short stories. Of course I also worked on a book, because everyone who starts out with writing wants to write a book. But yeah, whatever the case, I started Tupperware Steampunk, and that blog then became Radio Retro Future as a YouTube channel. I started doing this because I wanted to explore what steampunk is and why it appeals to me so much, which led to the Steampunk Beginner's Guide in December 2016. Incidentally, 4 years after I started my original blog. And this video is another 3 years after that one. So I guess I'm curious what will happen in 2 years' time. During my exploration of steampunk and its community, I interviewed over 100 people or so from all around the world. New interviews will happen at some point, but let's say I've spoken to writers, makers, game creators, artists, etc. And one thing that stands out to me is how diverse the community and its people is, but also its themes, its aesthetics, and even the genres that are written within that community. Yet, despite we're doing so many things, and still we feel connected by what we do, which is doing steampunk. So there must be some central concept, some belief that we are working on something together, and those from outside the community also have this shared idea of what steampunk is, and so it must go deeper than cogs and top hats. Especially because it still surprises me that people who see me and my costumes but don't know who I am or what I do still recognize what I do as steampunk. Now, we can go all Play-Doh on this and assume that there must be some perfect steampunk out there, but that's not the point of this video or what I want to talk about. So when I started costume-wise with steampunk, I didn't want to go the typical path. Like, I wanted to focus on telling stories, and that is how I came up with my first theme group, Ragtag, the Anachronistic Grenadiers. That started when I one day discovered a batch of copper oxide colored coats, like the green color you sometimes see on the tops of churches, like copper domes and stuff like that. And I convinced a friend to become, faceless soldiers, effectively, like the common henchmen type of characters. And back then all the steampunks in the community all had like these guns with them, like extraordinary amounts, and they posted on photos with that, but they didn't do anything really beyond that. They didn't really have an opposition to fight. So that is what we wanted to be. So we decided to become that opposition, and people really liked that. We did a lot of story related photo shoots, which I also wanted. And we also had this steampunk military camp, so to say, with all types of kids attractions, like a storm course, a Nerf arcade, and stuff like that. Now, I know this all sounds very anecdotal, but I have the point to make, so please bear with me. The basic story of the 113th Regiment was that they were former mind-controlled soldiers who had broken free from their master. And now there are interdimensional mercenaries, effectively. So it's kind of like the A-Team, or like Finn from the Star Wars movies, the guy who should have had his own movie. Anyway, the idea was that they were all warriors taken from different periods in time and places, mind-controlled by their masters and put into their service. So, but because that mind control is gone, all these grenadiers started remembering their former lives, so We all had the same base costume, but we would then expand on that with personal touches and you know, historical themes. What's important in the context of this video is that I learned what the importance is of synergy and what you can create if you plant a idea in a group of people and let those folks do their thing with it. People came up with new stuff like jokes, devices, and all that input kind of created like the lore behind the 113th Ragtag. But I never really got to work on their story, which I really wanted to do. But I didn't really have a universe to work with. One reason for that is that I didn't have the opportunity. And we were very occupied with, you know, public attractions and stuff for the kids. So, but regardless, Ragtag still became this very unique thing that people still recognize, even if we have not used that concept for a very long time. And my point is that I think is that this is what the steampunk community is, or at least it is to me as a whole, like this weird synergy between people doing their own thing with a very broadly defined concept. And that makes steampunk as a community, from what I've seen at least, very unique in nerddom. Most communities are fandoms, many of which are created by corporations like Disney, DC Comics, Fox, etc. And these communities are very affected what happens within those companies. Think like the scandals with Wizards of the Coast and last year Blizzard, and let's not even start about the creative story decisions we saw in the last Star Wars movies. So the steampunk community does not have corporate overlords like that, telling them what they can or cannot do, and you know, all the politics that is involved with that. You know, people just walk into the steampunk community and then start doing their thing, essentially. However, this does raise the bar for a lot of newcomers, because how do you do steampunk? You know, that question is why I created a whole steampunk beginner's guide in the first place. And I needed no permission, or, you know, I could do whatever I wanted with that, you know, and not everybody likes them, but on average it has 96 plus like to dislike ratio, so I must be doing something right. But as far as I know, nobody wrote in-depth reviews on that series, so I don't know what parts people disagree with. So if you're aware of any of such reviews, please let me know. I'd be very, very interested. But to get back to my point, I think what makes steampunk what it is comes from the people that partake in it. In order to talk about stuff like this, you need to define your terms. So it is one of my belief that this is one of the big issues the community has. Because apart from the hardcore group of viewers, the people who support me on Patreon, etc., agree to my description. Probably. Thank you so much, by the way. And of course, all the people who watch all of my videos, I'm so happy you are here today. However, this lack of agreement is a problem for newbies, and you know, you can't really have a discussion on steampunk because nobody agrees on what that word means. Now we can have a discussion on the steampunk community, like let's say the latest steampunk books, steampunk costumes, because we can point at that and say, you know, that is what we're talking about. That's a steampunk related object. Yet, here's the thing. That chaos also creates that synergy I'm talking about. Imagine going into another community, let's say the Star Wars community, and then you start creating magical pixies riding unicorns through space, and you promote that stuff like really intrusively. You know, people are gonna say, what the hell are you doing? This is not the place for that. Now, interestingly, a number of the people I had on my show, they often talk about creating a home for steampunk. Some creation everyone can get behind. Personally, I think that's not possible due to the wide range of interest within the community, and I would even say it could be antithetical to the community because it is that undefined idea that makes steampunk what it is. It created that synergy between this worldwide community because it does not have a set identity. And that brings me to my ambitions for 2020, which is I want to create a home for steampunk. Okay, that's goes against everything I just said, but hear me out. But no, I'm trying to get an online community off the ground, starting with our Discord server, Radio Retro Future. This is led by Ringmaster van Graf, or Vendor as we often call him. He has his own Sunday show going on there as well, so if you're interested in that type of thing, join us over there. Link is down in the description. And Vendor, I don't think I ever thanked you enough for all the work you've done for this Discord and the community in general. So, yeah, and of course there is my moderator, Mr. Lotus. Thank you both so much for your dedication. Then, for those who follow me, last year I finally started writing stories myself for the Association of Ishtar. This is my own take on the SCP format. If you don't know what SCP is, check out our video why you should read the SCP Foundation. Or check out our second channel, the Retro Future Research Foundation, where we have some stories read out for you, so you don't have to do that yourself. And I intend to make new SCP videos this year. But back to my plans for the Association of Ishtar. Some of you may have already been reading those. Those who do not know about them, it's a collection of short stories I'm writing that take place in the multiverse, and the Association of Ishtar is exploring this network of alternate dimensions and trying to stop any threats to their own world. However, I have more ambitions for these stories. Just like the SCP Foundation, I want to make videos on this universe, but also costumes. I'm teaching myself to draw as well. That's what's going on in the background of this video. But just like I did with Ragtag, I want to try and create a similar synergy, but online. Currently, these stories are on a wiki page, and anyone is free to add their own stories. One other reason why I start this series is because I get a lot of young people coming to me with questions on how to write, steampunk in particular, how to world build, create immersive stories and characters, and that also kind of inspired the idea to write short stories that shows various approaches to exploring subjects and themes, and simple story concepts into complex narratives. But there is also another ulterior motive. You see, an educational one, because I get a lot of younger people who come to me with questions on how to write, how to world build, create immersive characters and stories. And that kind of inspired me to write short stories that show various approaches to exploring subjects and themes and turning simple story concepts into complex narratives. And that became the Association of Ishtar. I also want people to add their own ideas as well, just like with SCP. So I choose for a multiverse where people can insert their own universes, so to say. This way they can practice their writing, expose a shared audience to their ideas and gather feedback as well. Canon, therefore, is loose, but it also adds a bit of mystery to the stories by not fully explaining them. I already have several readers, as a matter of fact, warning me they don't want me to explain certain things. Just as SCP, our stories are told from the perspective of the Association, who by no means are reliable narrators. So there's also a bit of a cosmic horror element to this. Anyway, now what I'm drawing is a background for a video slide I'm making that takes place in this universe in a location called Arcology. It's a place filled with stranded scavengers. I have more to say on that, but I don't want to waste your time, so I'll probably make a different video on how I came up with Arcology and what it all means. But yeah, I'm working on a collaborative project here right now. I'm drawing backgrounds, sketches, general layouts, placement of characters like I'm doing here in this video. And I've got already one artist working on a background I finished called Octopus Simon, who also made a drawing of S36, aka the Call Girl. And yeah, currently I'm really anticipating what she makes of it. So I'm still experimenting with this, so I don't know what hurdles and obstacles I'm gonna come across. I'm really curious to that as well. So yeah, that's the basic idea right now. One of my ambitions is to get you guys involved. So if you are an artist, you want to work on something collaborate for a change of scenery. Right now I'm drawing the background and general layout for the video. The voiceover is already done, so right now I'm looking for artists who want to finish the drawings. And I also have a photo shoot planned with a bunch of friends, so we're working on costume and props, and I hope to get that all done somewhere before March so we can organize the photo shoot. I'm actually decorating a part of my apartment to serve as a background, so expect some updates on that as well. So yeah, I'm turning one of my rooms into a place in archaeology, I suppose, that way. So yeah, those were my ambitions. Let me know if you're interested in partaking. The wiki link is down below, so you can add your own stories if you want. Submit your ideas, of course. The best way to do that is Discord. If you are an artist who is interested in partaking in this video, or if you want to interested in doing voice work, because I also want to do association of Ashtar photo videos. So that's something that's an intention of mine. If you want me to start one of those narration videos, please send me a suggestion for a story you want me to narrate. So I will experiment with that as well. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just gonna wish you a wonderful new year. I hope you have your resolutions well lined up for you, so you can confront your challenges right away. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year, and as always, make it your way. Good night. I forgot to mention, for those who don't want to commit but still want to support me, you can now buy me a cup of coffee on Ko-Fi. Thank you for your support.